Hi, I'm Joe from Mormon Geeks, and with me is my fellow Mormon geek, Stephen Larsen.
Hey everybody!
Today we're going to talk about Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows Part 1, or...
As I like to call it, Harry Potter Goes to REI.
So, what have we got here? This is the beginning of the end of the Harry Potter mass thing.
It's also a time when Harry Potter goes camping. A lot.
A lot. For a long time. A good chunk of this movie is Harry and his buddies camping.
Yeah.
In the most emo setting possible. So, book and story is supposed to wrap up the major plot threads. But the only major plot thread that's still lingering is that Harry has to kill Voldemort. There's some prophecy that's better explained in the book that Harry is, I guess, the only one in the world who can drop him. But the only way to drop Voldemort is to destroy his Horcruxes, which were introduced in the last film and book. How do you destroy a Horcrux? Well, they don't know. And Dumbledore's dead. And Dumbledore left really vague clues in order to help them.
Harry couldn't figure out, hey, there was that one time in the second movie, second year of school, where I killed that one Horcrux that I didn't know was a Horcrux, and it was the
Basilisk's fang.
Yeah, that.
And he stabbed it with a fang from a giant snake.
And it bled ink.
He doesn't figure that out until weeks into their camping trip. But why are they camping? Well, the Ministry of Magic has been taken over by Lord Voldemort. In other words, one of his cronies, as Captain Planet villains, has taken over the Ministry. And they're being discriminated against Muggle-borns.
Have you noticed how Voldemort never does anything himself? See, what I want to know is, what is he doing all this time when he's having his lackeys do everything, you know? Like, I mean, is Voldemort actually a villain of some other TV series that we don't know about?
He's guest starring on Supernatural in between shots of Harry Potter.
And we just don't know it because he's always wearing a crazy mask or something.
Well, we do get a little insight as to where Voldemort is at during this movie because we find out he's hunting the Deathly Hallows, which is this movie's latest J.K. Rowling random, we should have known this before, but we're going to throw it in at the last minute, nonsense.
Really? I don't know. I thought it was kind of okay for him to introduce at the end, but that's just me.
It's just, she does this every single story. It's like, oh, by the way, there's a Triwizard tournament. Oh, by the way, there are werewolves, and I guess we don't like them. Oh, by the way, there's a Horcrux. It's just, she likes to tack on random stuff.
It would have been nice if she would have, put a little, I don't know, did some foreshadowing of the Deathly Hallows, throughout the book, throughout the series. That way when you actually come to the end, you're like, oh my gosh, it all makes sense, and it comes in, one big circle, you know?
See, and that's my biggest problem with her, is that she doesn't do any sort of foreshadowing. It's like she makes it up as she goes along.
She also doesn't know relationships. Recently in a interview, she said that if she could do it all over again, she would have put Hermione with Harry. Which makes so much more sense, in my opinion.
Yeah, I can see how that would make more sense, because honestly, the chemistry between Ron and Hermione, both in the book and in the movie, is like saying two chairs stacked on top of each other is a saucy love scene. It doesn't work. They have no chemistry, and like I said in my last review, I don't get this whole, we argue a lot, so thus we're in love, story thread that pops up throughout fiction. It just annoys me. So we also get a little bit into their relationship, because at one point Hermione and Ron take a break, and Ron goes somewhere for
something.
6 months.
You know, I bet Ron had this really awesome story that you're just kind of like, oh my gosh, that was the coolest wizarding story ever, and he was basically this James Bond but in the wizarding world story. I honestly would have loved to have seen more Ron stuff happen in this movie.
It's true. That would have been awesome to see, and just get away from Harry and his endless camping trip. The movie, for a large chunk of it, is the people are trying to figure out how to destroy the Horcrux. They're annoyed that they can't destroy the Horcrux. They're annoyed at Dumbledore that he didn't tell them how to destroy the Horcrux, and they whine about it. Meanwhile, we get to see some really lovely pictures of rural England, places I'd never heard of.
And camping. I love camping.
Camping with a bag of holding.
Yeah.
Hermione's got a little purse that when you open it up, it's way bigger on the inside. Insert Doctor Who joke here. But it's a bag of holding from Dungeons and Dragons, and that's actually kind of cool.
This movie is like the Blair Witch Project meets Harry Potter.
It's true, with a little bit of Dawson's Creek.
Oh my gosh, you're right.
Yeah, I know.
Oh my gosh.
So this one's really kind of filler until the last one. The very last one, the one I'm going to review in a couple weeks, is a lot more put together, and it wraps things up. This one will just kind of spiral downward towards the unfulfilled climax. I do want to talk about this, though. This movie had controversy because we got to see Hermione Granger's back. There's a scene where Ron is fighting with the Horcrux, and the Horcrux has been whispering all these terrible things in his ear about how apparently the Horcrux agrees with Rowling and that Harry and Hermione should have got together. And so you see this scene where the Horcrux blows up and there's smoke and it's trying to show Ron all these horrible scenes, and it's got Harry and Hermione topless. Looks like they're kissing, and it's very implied. Honestly, if the smoke was a little bit lower, you could probably assume that she was just in a tube top. But this sparked so much controversy when it came out about, oh, Harry Potter is so amoral. Oh, Harry Potter is so bad.
Okay, so one thing that I do think is funny, like we talked about how like the Horcrux is basically like believes that Harry and Hermione should be together. It's almost like the Horcrux is like one of those crazy like Harry Potter fans that write the really weird like fan fiction stories where like Draco and Harry Potter get together. What?
You know what? What I write in high school is none of your business. I mean, oh, the camera's rolling. Yeah, it really is really fanficky. And then Ron buys it, which Ron's kind of dumb. Okay.
That fits for his character. Ron would buy that. Let's be honest. Let's be fair.
Okay, Ron would buy it. But here's an idea.
Let's be honest.
How about we not wear the Horcrux while we're trying to figure out how to open the Horcrux?
Obviously, Ron never read Lord of the Rings either.
Right?
It probably wasn't published in the Wizarding World, which you'd think it would be a big seller there, but
Gandalf could be one of the biggest like characters since Wolverine in their world, but maybe it's a document. Maybe it's a history. Maybe like one of the history things is, okay, this is where the One Ring had to be destroyed, and Gandalf was there, and later on they all became these really annoying wizards.
The One Ring was like the first Horcrux. It all makes sense now.
The One Ring is a Horcrux. The One Ring is a Horcrux. That makes a lot of sense. Mm-hmm. Because they have to spend the entire and majority of that movie trying to figure out how to blow up the stupid ring. But we'll review Lord of the Rings later. Last bit. Like I said, this movie just kind of circles around. There's not really a main plot that they try to conclude. They're just, at the end, they're still trying to kill Voldemort. They spend the entire movie, they wipe out one Horcrux. They've got like 19 to go. Okay, so they've got like 3 to go. Because he has 7.
7.
For me, the best part of this... There are 2 best parts of this movie for Joe. One is Dolores Umbridge, whom as a character, I love Dolores Umbridge. She is so nasty and pink.
And Imelda Staunton as Dolores Umbridge was like perfect casting, in my opinion.
Do you see why I'm friends with him? He just totally busted out the name of the actress who played Dolores Umbridge off the top of his head.
She's awesome. She's like one of my yeah.
She's fantastic.
She was in Shakespeare in Love. Like that was the movie she was in before she got bigger. So anyway.
And I love how evil she is, but she's still got this veneer of goodness. I love her animal that she summons to stop Dementors.
She's like, you know what Dolores Umbridge is like? She's like one of those like Davis County Mormons that are like, everything's fine and perfect, and then they're like really snooty behind your back and say terrible things.
Someone's had some damage.
Or Utah County, you know.
Or Utah. Well, there goes our Utah County audience. That works.
Don't worry, guys. I live in Utah County, so if you ever need to get away from the craziness of the cultural "you must get married BYU" thing, come and talk to me. It's okay. You're going to be okay.
You will be okay. So that's my first one. Is I love the scenes with Dolores Umbridge. I think she just brings the screen to life. I think the same thing about what's her face, who plays Bellatrix Lestrange.
Oh yeah,
She's really fun, but where her character is basically like the Harley Quinn of this universe, which Harley fan, that works. But I don't know. Dolores just steals the scenes for me. The second thing I love is when they tell the story of the Deathly Hallows and it's animated.
that was pretty sweet.
It is just this beautifully well done animation, this story that was well told, and it's done in the same animation as the chapter headings from the books, which is the geekiest thing. Take a look at it.
Oh my gosh, I never noticed that.
Yep. It is so cool. It's the same art style. It is so neat to see a throwback back to the books. Because you look at those pictures, and until the movies came out, that was what fed the imagination, was whoever's art style. And it's this kind of like pseudo art deco thing. Beautifully done. Again, I love this. I love the cinematography in this film. In these films, beautifully done. This one though, I really needed like some caffeine about halfway through. I'm like, oh, we're not even close to done yet. We're still in the woods.
My favorite part of this movie was the camping. My least favorite part of this movie was the camping. I mean, because like the cinematography is really great in the camping scenes. You're just like, wow, England is so gorgeous, and then it's also really boring.
Yes, it is. There's actually a part I was going to read from a Harry Potter book from the Deathly Hallows, but I left it in my room, so whatever. But there is something I do want to illustrate. I've made a realization about these films. They shouldn't have been films. They should have been a TV series on HBO. If this thing had been Game of Thronesified, okay, so maybe the special effects wouldn't be as great, because it does take an arm and a leg for them to show those stupid dragons on Game of Thrones. But it would have gotten into so much more of the character detail and characterization that we loved in the books. In Harry Potter, The Deathly Hallows, the book, there's right before Harry goes to, actually visits where his family died, and he goes into this idea of what his life would have been like had his family lived. Had he had brothers and sisters? Could he have had friends visit? He would have known about the magical world, and he wouldn't have to live with the Dursleys, who are the most abusive parents since Cinderella's stepmom. But we can't get into that because we have to spend more time camping in this stupid movie and showing England.
You know what? If the Harry Potter series was a TV series, that would have been pretty awesome. I mean, because for one thing, nowadays with TV series, you got pretty good production values. I mean, you look at Mad Men and the set design, the costume design. Game of Thrones is another good example. The Walking Dead, pretty much anything on AMC has really good production values. Like to the point where you're like, oh my gosh, I feel like I'm watching a movie, you know. But yeah, and the nice thing about, the thing about Harry Potter and the thing about Lord of the Rings and some of these other stories is the world that is created. I mean, there's just so much that you love about the world. You're okay with the movie being 3 hours long, unless it's a lot of camping. But you know.
A lot of trips to REI. Well, thank you for joining us in my review of Harry Potter and Deathly Hallows Part 1. In 2 weeks, I'm going to do Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows Part 2, simply because it's going to take me 2 weeks to get through this movie. Once again, listen to Bulbasaur and, Bulbasaur right there, and the Psyduck afterwards to, remember to just hit subscribe, share with your friends, find us on the Facebooks. You know what to do. Thanks for joining us and have a good day. That video sure was fun. Yeah, we should totally follow them on Facebook and Twitter and on MormonGeeks.com. Yeah, and we should hit subscribe to their YouTube channel. That's a great idea. Yeah.